Hello everybody, I had the best time at the Arboricultural Association Amenity Conference this year. I met loads of people, old friends and new, and I went around with my phone just to do some recording for Tree Lady Talks. Over lunch on Sunday field trip, I spoke to an old friend of mine, John Hugh, an ARB consultant. Hi John, now I don't think this is your first ARB conference, is it?
No, my first ARB conference was in 2003 in Cambridge.
And what are you looking forward to this year?
Well, catching up with all these old friends,
Yes.
finding out what's been going on, finding out some new ideas from the speakers, and generally getting pissed.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot. It's going to be messy. It's going to be messy. I caught up with Bill, who works for Cork Abbey, who gave us the most enthralling tree safari walk, looking at the ancient trees there. Bill, we've had such a great morning with you this morning, looking at this incredible site of all the veteran trees. Tell me, what's special about Cork Abbey?
Oh, you've mentioned the Abbey. I mean, my bit's sort of everything outside of the Abbey, so it's all the parkland.
Yes.
It's the wonderful ancient and veteran trees that we've got on site, which, you know, when you start looking how long they've been standing there and what's gone on beyond them and around them, it's just stunning. And when you put those sorts of thoughts into other people, it's quite difficult for them to appreciate just how long some of these trees have been standing there.
And it's a really good habitat for invertebrates, isn't it? I see how you manage the dead wood. Explain to the listeners what that looks like on the ground.
Basically, if you imagine a tree collapsing and being left where it collapsed, that's almost the ideal. It just means the tree's going through its life cycle and just doing what it would do. It's not been interfered with, it's not been managed. So whether it's dead stuff up in the top of the tree or dead stuff that's fallen off it and is lying on the floor, it's just there. So anything that might live on it can still do that. We haven't tidied anything.
It's fantastic. It's really beautiful to see. And tell me, what's planned for the next 50 years in terms of trees?
Is that for me or for Cork? Looking forward, we've got a 50-year plan that the whole of our estate, which is, you know, over 2,000 acres, nearly 1,000 hectares, that the whole area would be wood pasture. That doesn't mean we've got wonderful big trees in the estate like we have in Cork itself. That can only happen in another 200 years. But the trees will be in the ground and starting to do their thing.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for your time, Bill. You've got another group this afternoon.
Indeed.
And a real pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Veteran tree legend Ted Green reminded us that we have the oldest trees in Europe.
And I know you can say that is a very, very pronounced statement, but it's true. Yeah. And people say to me, well, why have we still got them? Well, aristocracy have been very good at running the banks and all the rest of it. And I always ask people in this country, why do billionaires want to own newspapers? So why have we got them? And it's obviously to do with the aristocracy and keeping them. But we had the landscape. And when they built these parks and all the rest of it, like Windsor's got a big castle on a hill, and it's where William the Conqueror arrived there and looked at the treescape and said, this is where I'm going to build my home. And he was a hunter. But it wasn't what you perceive as forest, because you can't ride a horse in forest. It was still called forest, but in those days the word meant somewhere where you went hunting. And you could ride on horseback. But you can't ride a horse in woodland. So it was wood pasture. And if you look at the forms of these oak trees, they show that they're squat, they've got big limbs, and the big limbs come out quite close down, which means the tree has grown all its life. And Jill will tell you in a minute how many years old it is, or about what we think it is, how many years that tree has grown in the open. Are you with me? And of course, if you look at the rest of Europe, why doesn't it have many trees like we do? because our old aristocrats said, war? Bloody war? We don't want a war in Britain disturbing the pheasants. Send the buggers over to Europe and they can fight over there. So the last war we had was 400 years ago. So you can thank your aristocracy. And of course, we're a very small country and we got coal. Big areas of France and that still rely on wood fuel because they don't have a source of coal. We do. We still got it.
Jill Butler explains how we, as arboriculturalists, should be telling historians about the clues and secrets that trees reveal about landscape history.
Now, when we stood here earlier, we were talking about whether it's a pollard or not, and this is where arborists come in. You must understand what it means between a pollard and a maiden tree. Don't rely on historians to be able to tell you anything about trees. And I will talk about that on Tuesday. The historians cannot see trees in paintings, they cannot see them in tapestries, they cannot see them anywhere. And if they do see them, they interpret them wrongly. And it's arborists that can help historians to actually bring those stories out as evidence again of what the past was like.
In this clip from the video, Jill explains why she believed the tree she was showing to the group was a maiden and not a pollard.
These branches on the outside, I think, are epicormic growth, which the tree has built on as it's grown downwards. I think if you look at the big central dead wood in the middle, that huge, you wouldn't get that in a pollard. You wouldn't get that central column of dead wood like that in a pollard. So I'm really fairly certain that this is maiden. And I think in these deer park landscapes where they were very controlling of the commoners, don't forget the king and the bishop owned the tree, and it was the permission of the commoners or the local people to come in and do lop and top. In these high status landscapes, they wouldn't have let the commoners in particularly, or they would have been under extreme control. The status was not having commoners running all over these very important sites. So I think it's very unlikely these would have had, this sort of landscape would have had pollards in the time when this tree established itself.
What do you think about the little one?
So just to say, little ones, can I just say respectfully that 7-metre oaks are really at the point where we really have to think very carefully about what the history of the landscape was, because I've been into places where they've said, oh no, you can see the ridge and furrow and this is really a modern landscape. But I've got the evidence of the trees standing there in front of me that telling me that there's a much deeper, older story. And Keith Alexander, the great saproxylic guy, you know, he was being told...
Saproxylic is dead wood, by the way.
The saproxylic invert guy, insect guy. They were telling him about Mockus Park, another fantastic park over in Herefordshire, and they say, oh no, this is a modern landscape, you know, this is 17th century, you know, blah, 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 blah. And Keith said, the invertebrates are not telling me that. Go away and dig again.
I'm living on an island.
One of the great things about conferences is not just listening to new ideas and being inspired, but it's just chatting with friends and making new contacts during lunch and tea breaks.
Criticize the way that I talk, and I'm moving forward in my own way. Till my lady comes around, she brightens up my day.
And I caught up with the Three Amigos,
Dream my happy dream.
Kenton Rogers, Keith Saker and Russell Halsey.
But for now I'll go to sleep. Dream my happy dream about another tree, Lady Day.
Right, here we are at the ARB conference with Three Amigos. Can you introduce yourselves, please, guys? Russell.
Hi, I'm Russell Halsey.
Keith Saker.
may have heard of him.
Kenton Rogers.
You may have heard of him. So, how is it to be back together at the ARB conference? Have you enjoyed it?
Oh, I've missed Russell tremendously.
Yeah.
Not the way.
Huh?
Yeah, no, it's good to be back soon.
Yeah, lovely, lovely. So, Russell, tell me about Tree Plotter.
Tree Plotter. So Tree Plotter is some software we use to sort of look at inventories. We use it to do canopy cover mapping. We're working with a number of different cities now to look at where they can plant trees, how many trees they need to plant where, how they can deal with sort of social deprivation, traffic pollution, and all that kind of stuff.
Excellent, excellent. And Keith, are you here with your Barcham's hat on, or your Treeconomics, or are you just here as a world-renowned
I'm just genuinely here to confuse people. Well, I've got the Bartram t-shirt on,
Yeah.
so no comment other than that.
Well, you've got some trees here, haven't you, for people to identify?
Bartram have, yes.
Yes, yeah. It's going to be challenging.
Very, very difficult one. Tell them to look out for the Celtics
Oh, okay.
and the Staphylococcus.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to look up that. I'm not. Oh, brilliant. And Kenton, you're here with Treeconomics.
Yes.
And just tell people in a nutshell what Treeconomics do.
We're a social enterprise that look at managing trees using a benefits-based approach.
And we've got a full episode on that on Tree Lady Talks already, which people can catch up on. That's excellent. And what have you taken from this conference so far? What's been a standout this morning for you?
It's been really good to meet people again, actually, that I haven't seen for years. So that's good. The social aspect, which you don't just get on Zoom and on webinars. And I found this morning's talks particularly interesting because they're talking about tree equity,
Yeah.
which is something that's important, and it's good that it's being addressed here actually, and also taking it right back to what is a tree and what does that mean to
Yeah.
us individually
It's been
and
absolutely
collectively.
lovely.
Sharon, I thought this was supposed to be with all of us, like Ken's just monopolised it.
He has. So very Kenton. Go on, now you monopolise.
No, I'm not going to monopolise
Well,
it.
have you taken anything from today, Keith?
Yeah, I took Kenton's wallet.
Yeah.
I was particularly interested in the lady from South Africa when she was talking about the colonial impact of trees and how colonialism's left a footprint in the tree population. So yeah, it was really interesting.
It was very moving actually. And how about you, Russell? What have you, apart from perhaps Keith's wallet, what have you taken from today?
To me, I think the key thing is that it's the same issues all around the world. So actually listening to a lot of the international speakers, it's the same issues we face here, and I think that's probably what we're going to hear for the rest of the week.
One of the exhibitors, Mark from Beesmax, explains about the important work they're doing. I'm here with Mark. Mark, tell us about yourself and tell us about Beesmax.
Yeah, well, Beesmax was created a couple of years ago, and in principle it was to take beehives into schools and corporates. So we do well-being lunch clubs at business parks where the tenants can come down and book in and get as involved as they want. So we're not trying to create beekeepers out of people, we're just trying to give them the experience, which has worked really well. However, we became aware of the fact that bees actually live in trees and they're not really being looked after or conserved or relocated in any really professionally managed way. So this is why I went at the Arb Association today, showing for 3 days a wild nest that did have bees in it actually until about June this year. But unfortunately, with the extreme weather, the queen didn't mate, they swarmed off, and we'll have to refill this. We'll reoccupy this with bees next spring. And this has been a really good practical example of how arborists can help the cause and how they can help the environment and save these trees. They do try to in most cases, but this is going to now offer a professional service that can be booked in anywhere in the country, and these nests will be recovered and relocated and conserved. And hopefully these tree stumps will be living and usable for another 50 years. It's all built out of cedar wood, and the 2 metre stumps you can see here today are in various shapes and sizes, so this isn't always as perfect as this, but this was a good example for today, and they've all been very interested actually, and I'm very pleased with the reception that we've had.
And you brought some honey with you here today, and let's go and have a look at that. I've tasted it, and it's delicious.
Yeah, we've tried to show the whole journey from the honeycomb that's been cut to putting it in the box, as you can see, which is a traditional way of reselling honeycomb. You can also buy it in jars, but this is the natural product straight from that frame. That's a completed frame there that's capped, and this is a spinner to demonstrate how honey is thrown out of the comb. So this will go down really fast. Honey would come out, drop down the sides, and go out the tap at the bottom.
Oh, brilliant.
And that's what you'd be more used to seeing in the jar.
She's a lady, she's a lady, she's a lady who can help you with the problem with trees. She's a lady, only maybe, if there's a subject to accompany a walk, you'll probably find it on the Tree Lady Talk.
I caught up with John Galfright and his wife from Japan on the work they do for TreeHab, which is an incredible program of enabling children and young adults with disabilities to go right up into the trees. Tell us about the work that you do in Japan with children and children with special needs.
Well, actually, we help children with any ability climb trees, and they climb trees for recreation, for rehabilitation, for therapy, and for education. And we sort of shared the history of that program and how it's grown in Japan, and also how arborists are able to be involved in that program. And by helping the children, their dreams come true of leaving their wheelchair, and even if they can't walk, they can climb a tree, and empowering those children, and then those children empower us. They teach us things we've never thought about before. And so there's a symbiotic relationship, and there's a give and a take there. And it's a beautiful program, and we get a chance to work with beautiful trees and beautiful people.
It's just so inspirational, giving people that new experience. And you showed some films during your presentation. Where can listeners find those films on the internet?
Well, actually, I have a site. It's called johngathray.com. And we also have our own Japanese sites. And I hope that maybe the AA will be able to post some of our videos and things as well.
Well, we can as well at Tree Lady Talks.
That would be wonderful.
So I'd love to post your link to your work because it's truly inspirational. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mark Braze, Oklahoma Forestry Service Officer, talked to us about how the Survivor Tree was a beacon of hope after the terrible bombing. Hello, Mark. I so enjoyed your presentation. It actually made me cry. Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, it's so nice to be here, and it's a true honor to be here telling that very special story about this tree that means so much to us in Oklahoma. I'm an urban forester with the state of Oklahoma, and it's been my honor to play a small part in the rescue and recovery of this tree. We had this tragedy happen in 1995 where the largest domestic act of terrorism occurred upon us. Some person found it upon himself to bomb this federal building. And we'll never know why he did this, but we wanted to honor those missing people that who are no longer with us. And so the Oklahoma City National Memorial, their main goal is to never forget what happened and always honor those that survived, those who were impacted, and those that were changed forever. And so it's been one of my roles is to help the Survivor Tree. And that was my story today, is to share this special story about the Survivor Tree. And it has come to symbolize survival. And it's helped us get past the tragedy that happened, surviving this tragedy. It's resilience, it's strength. No matter how much evil is out there in the world, goodness, we'll get past that. And
yes,
this tree represents so many different things to so many different people that it's a true honor to share that experience with the world, because survival is, it's something that we all have personal tragedies with in our lives, and So it is something that it's a great honor that I'm here representing Oklahoma and the Oklahoma City National Memorial.
Thank you so much, Mark. And I was really also struck by the care you took during construction, which is something a lot of us do here with technical work, where things are changing around the tree's rooting system. That was impressive too. But really a powerful story, and thank you so much for sharing. Just tell listeners where they can find this beautiful film that you showed.
You can go online to just do a search for Oklahoma City National Memorial Survivor Tree, maybe Mark Bays, but a number of those videos will come up, and it's an 11-minute video, and there's a couple of others out there, but the one that I showed today was the 11-minute video.
And it's really special. Well, I won't keep you any longer because you're back on.
Yeah.
Real privilege to meet you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Finally, I caught up with Russell Ball from Fund for Trees. Russell, it's so good to see you. Russell, could you tell us a bit about yourself, please?
Okay, I'm the founder of Fund for Trees, a registered charity formed a number of years ago, and I'm one of 4 trustees. So there's myself, Martin Gammy, Mick Body, and Pete Wharton. And we're the governance of the charity, if you like. And also, we have what we call a research advisory committee. So when we get research monies in, we then, if we get a bid that comes in, we then send that bid to the research advisory committee for them to evaluate the bid, either reject it because it's not sufficient in terms of its methodology, or they say you can accept that bid, maybe sometimes with some modifications. So that's really important. So there's a bit of clear space between us having the money and them sort of telling us how we would best spend it.
Tell me about the bike rides, because I took part in a couple of bike rides a few years ago. Tell us how much fun it is and what work you do with children.
Yeah, no, the bike rides are a real fun thing. First of all, because it's a great collective sort of sporting event, but it's not like a race. It's a kind of get together. You get 13, 14, up to 20 arborists on a bike. So there's a great buzz when you're cycling from school to school.
It's great fun.
And then when we go into the school, sometimes we've got the whole school waiting for us. We've had like 300 or 400 kids waiting, and it's a really, really, really good event. In the old days, when we first started the charity, we used to cycle in, plant the tree, silver spade style, and then leave. But then I thought, well, there's a wasted opportunity here. So what we do, we now have an interactive workshop. It starts about 20-25 minutes. So we ask the children to start off, what's your favourite tree? And that gets the dialogue going. And then we talk about tree biology, phloem, xylem, in terms of drain pipes, and how water goes into the tree through the root system. We talk about leaves and photosynthesis. It's really, really good and very interactive. And then we often then get the children planting the tree, often with their hands. So those are mud and clay, and it's a really, really good exercise. And then we end it with a kind of a celebratory kind of grow tree grow, where you get all the children around the tree, and we have this kind of energy thing going on, and their job is to kind of get this energy from their bodies and their fingertips towards the tree to make it grow. We shout grow tree grow.
I mean, you say it calmly. I've been to those things. It's like, grow, tree, grow. And it's just so exciting. It's brilliant. So have you got any other bike rides coming up soon?
Well, we have actually, Sharon. We've got a ride on the 21st of September in Wythenshawe. So if anyone's interested, they can go to the Fund for Trees website, and there's a blog on that particular website which tells you about where. But it's Wythenshawe, and it's on the 21st of September.
Brilliant.
It'll be about a 12 to 15 mile ride.
Yeah, so not too far, folks. If you're listening, you want to raise some money to help this great charity. Finally, Russell, you've done some epic bike rides. Tell us about your trip to Spain.
Yeah, that was the first one I ever did was Land's End John O'Groats. That was on my own with no support, and that was quite scary. I've never done a long bike ride before, but I loved it so much that I got the bug.
Yeah.
And within about 6 months, I then decided I would do the capital cities. So about a year later, I set off from London, cycled to Cardiff, and then over to Dublin, and then Belfast, and then Edinburgh, and then back down to London. And then I wanted even more of a challenge. And I know the people at Kew Gardens very well. One of the guys that worked there was a guy called John Hamilton, and he'd gone off to Gibraltar to work at the Botanic Gardens there. So I thought, what a great idea to fly to Gibraltar and then cycle from Gibraltar all the way up through Madrid. Planted trees with blind children, which was absolutely fantastic.
Wow.
And then went up through France and then ended the trip in at Kew Gardens. And all those 3 trips have been on my own with no support. Quite scary at times, but it kind of focuses the mind really, you know. But what I would do, I'd break it down so you do it like coffee break by coffee break, day by day. Because you're doing 80 to 100 miles a day, so you have to be quite fit to do it. But it's a great way to see a country on the bike. Really.
You are a legend, and I think you just came across kindness from local people, didn't you, helping you?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely
really
fantastic. And so what have you taken from the conference so far?
I think it's great that we're back socially. I mean, the CPD part of it is quite important, but for me, and I think for a lot of people here, the real value of it is actually the networking and the chatting and the exchange of information and ideas that happens before and after the sessions. So I think that's been really, really good. But today, I mean, we had the chap from Japan talking about doing the tree climbing with disabled children.
Oh,
and that was tear-jerkingly brilliant.
It was. Really I mean, actually, you know, I was crying.
I know. Yeah.
And I think quite a few of us are inspired to try and do something like that here. Exactly. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Russell. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I really enjoyed the Arboricultural Association Amenity Conference. There were many, many highlights. I'm sure you've got your own. If you're listening to this as a podcast, don't forget you can see it on our YouTube channel, SHA, Sharon Hosegood Associates.
Two reminders from me before you go. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would be great if you could share it with your friends and family, and consider subscribing to the show to make sure you don't miss any episodes. You can find us on Instagram at TreeLadyUK and on the website treeladytalks.co.uk. And if you just want to get in touch, send me an email to noel@treeladytalks.co.uk.